I was comfortably against the bombing of North Vietnam. I thought it would be kill a lot of people and would accomplish nothing. And it turns out in later years, a lot of people thought that. So we didn't say it to each other very much. But my boss thought it very much, John McNaughton. But we worked for McNamara. So I asked what we should have done. Well, what I did do was do what McNamara wanted McNaughton to do. And McNaughton gave me, and that was work on options and work on the plans. I wrote some critical stuff on it. Came out in the Pentagon Papers later. What Wayne Morse told me in '71, when the Pentagon Papers came out, I'd given them to the New York Times now. I gave them to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee in '69 and '70. But Fulbright chose not to put them out or to have hearings because he wouldn't have been killed and he wouldn't have lost his job, but the Pentagon would have cut him out from jurisdiction over military aid through foreign relations. They would have channeled it through armed services since he couldn't be trusted anymore to keep secrets. And rather than do that, he didn't put them out. So I gave them to the New York Times eventually. They put them out in '71. So Morse said to me a month or two later, when I was now under indictment, and I was under indictment, eventually for 115 years. And actually, Nixon did send people to incapacitate me totally, 72, a year after I was under indictment, while I was still under indictment. The orders were to incapacitate me totally on the steps of the Pentagon, actually, in May 3rd, 1972, because he was about to escalate the war further to mine Haiphong. He had reason to know I knew that, and he wanted me to shut up. So he brought 12 Cubans up on orders from the president to incapacitate Ellsberg totally, and they didn't because these were the same guys they had sent to incapacitate Castro, and I was blessed in my assassins, you might say. They were a little cautious. It's another story. Anyway, in in '71, Morse said to me, if you had given those documents that were in your safe, which I told him, the stuff on 64, 65 that came out in '71 had been in my safe. All of it had been in my safe in 64, 65. He said, if you had given me that material in August of '64, the Tonkin Gulf resolution would never have gotten out of committee. He was on the committee. And if they had bypassed the committee and taken it directly to the floor, it would never have passed. And actually, that was a heavy thing to hear. But my first reaction, I can tell you, when I heard that was, well, Johnson would have gone ahead anyway, without the declaration. Or he would have found some other excuse for the declaration. So I didn't put too much on that, and it took a while for me to realize, wait a minute. Months went by before that bombing took place. If I had emptied not emptied the safe, if I had taken one file drawer out of the dozens of file drawers of top secret documents, by dozens I mean, well, maybe that's an exaggeration in my office. I had several 4-drawer top secret safes in my office. So if I'd taken one of those drawers of selected documents and given it to Morse, I think probably the war would not have happened. Because there would have been so much anger that the president was lying both to Congress and to the public during that campaign. He would still have won over Goldwater, but it wouldn't have been any landslide. He wouldn't have gotten the crossover from the Republicans. And he could not have started the escalation. I really don't think so. Congress was against it. They did not know it was coming. I knew it was coming. And if I proved it with documents, I don't think he could have done it. Now that is a heavy load to bear. And I didn't think of it for a long time. What I've been saying to audiences and in op-eds and in articles, and an article in Harper's about a year ago, you could look up on my website, ellsberg.net, Harper's article of about a year ago saying, not do what I did, but rather don't do what I did. Don't wait till the war has started. Don't wait till the bombs have fallen or thousands more have died. If you know that the country is being lied into a disastrous and unlawful war, go before the war to the press and to Congress, not just to Congress. I wasted 1.5 years on that myself. To the press and Congress, and give them the documents. The word alone won't do it. I think that Powell, even Powell, speaking out, if he resigned, would have been dismissed, gone crazy, out of the loop. Not really, he would have said about him various things. But with his documents, his assistant, Wilkerson, who said that he had a resignation letter in his desk in the fall of 2002 and took it out every day, knowing the lies that were going on, looked at it, read it, and put it back in the desk. And he regrets that, and he's been speaking out ever since, but not only starting in about 2004. Richard Clarke writes a book, Against All Enemies. Come back to the meaning of that title. Revealing that as head of counterterrorism chief in the White House, the man who was in charge of operations, coordinating operations on September 11th. Condi Rice said, Dick, you take the chair. He said, he didn't argue. He was the man in charge. He took the chair and coordinated the operations. He was in charge of counterterrorism. He knew on September 12th, the day after, that Rumsfeld and Bush intended, as he put it in his book, to use this tragedy as an excuse to bomb a country that had nothing to do with it, Iraq, right after Afghanistan. And by the way, what's come out now is that the plans for Iran were just as important from the first day of the administration. As many people have said, Iran was the real target, haven't yet got there. So he knew they were after Iraq, and he knew that that was not only irrelevant, as he put to Rumsfeld, he said that would be like bombing Cuba for Pearl Harbor, or Mexico, I think he said Mexico. It'd be like after Pearl Harbor we bombed Mexico. Rumsfeld, and he said Afghanistan is where Osama bin Laden is. And Rumsfeld said, but there are no good targets in Afghanistan. Well, you might think Osama was a good target, but you may have noticed we haven't been able to locate him for 6 years. So there's no good targets. In Afghanistan, Iraq is where the targets are. And so he knew this in 2001, and he told us in 2004. Now, I give him credit that he told us before the election, and he got smeared. He didn't have documents. And they actually said, Cheney said, oh, Clarke, he was out of the loop. Richard Clarke ran the loop. Richard Clarke was the manager of the loop. But they said, he's out of the loop. And Condi Rice said, no, that conversation with the president didn't take place. The president wasn't in the White House operations room that day on the 12th, said Condi Rice. And then 2 people who heard the exchange came forward and said, well, actually he was, and we heard this. No documents, though. So Clarke is put down in a variety of ways. He's making money on his book. I don't begrudge him the money on the book. I'm glad to buy the book and learn a lot about what was going on. And better then than later. But 3 years earlier, or 2 years earlier, Richard Clarke could have averted the Iraq War. And he not only thought of it correctly as unnecessary, he thought of it correctly as destroying the country's counter-terrorism campaign, as making it impossible to destroy or greatly reduce Al-Qaeda. Impossible then, as it's impossible now. And for the reason that every day we bomb and kill civilians and other Iraqis, every day, which is every day, new recruits are added to Al-Qaeda around the world.